Have you ever wished to be someone truly unshakable? Someone who can walk through the storms of life without collapsing, who remains steady even when rejection cuts deep, betrayal blindsides you, or criticism stings your soul. Have you ever dreamed of reaching a place within yourself where nothing and nobody can hurt you anymore? A place where the opinions of others no longer control your emotions, and where pain no longer defines the rhythm of your days. Maybe you've spent years wearing the mask of strength, pretending that everything is fine. You smile when you're expected to smile. You nod when others need reassurance. You hold yourself together, not because you feel strong, but because you're terrified of what might happen if you let go. Deep inside, you're exhausted, tired of carrying the weight of expectations, tired of constantly trying to be good enough, strong enough, smart enough, kind enough. Tired of being the one who holds it all together while no one notices the quiet war inside you. But here's the truth, the one that so few dare to speak. As long as you keep running from pain, pain will continue to run your life. As long as you keep building walls around your heart, life will always find a way to reach through the cracks. You can try to become untouchable by shutting down your emotions, by pretending you don't care, by acting like nothing can affect you. But that isn't strength. That's fear wearing armor. And armor may keep the world out, but it also keeps you trapped inside. True strength is something entirely different. It doesn't come from denying pain. It comes from facing it, from seeing it clearly, understanding it deeply, and no longer letting it define you. Carl Jung once said, "We are not what happens to us. We are what we choose to become." And those words carry a kind of power that can change your life if you let them. In this journey, we're not building thicker walls. We're going to learn how to dissolve them. Because the moment you turn inward and face what has been hidden in the dark corners of your soul, the outside world loses its power to destroy you. Take a breath. Let the noise fade for a moment. This is where the real work begins. Not in pretending to be strong, but in becoming whole. For most of your life, you've probably believed that what hurts you comes from the outside. You think it's the harsh words someone said, the betrayal that caught you off guard, the rejection that left you questioning your worth, or the cold silence that made you feel invisible. It's easy to believe that pain is something that happens to us, something inflicted by other people, something beyond our control. But here's the uncomfortable truth that few people ever face. What truly hurts isn't out there. What hurts is what already exists inside of you. When someone abandons you, when they criticize or betray you, when they act in a way that pierces your heart. What breaks isn't just the present moment. It's the echo of an old wound. A wound that was already there, quietly waiting to be touched. Maybe it was formed years ago, maybe decades. Maybe it was born in childhood, in the first moments when you learned to measure your worth through the love, approval, or attention of others. Maybe it came from being unseen, unheard, or unprotected when you needed it most. That wound doesn't just disappear with time. It lives on, deep inside, like a sensitive scar beneath the surface. So when someone says something careless or rejects you in the present, it doesn't only land in today's pain. It awakens all the pain that came before. That's why two people can experience the exact same moment, and one can walk away unaffected, while the other collapses under the weight of it. It's not the event itself. It's what the event touches. And yet, most of us spend our lives trying to control the outside world to protect these wounds. We try to say the right things, do the right things, be the right person, all in an effort to keep pain away. We believe that if we're just good enough, smart enough, strong enough, kind enough, people won't hurt us. But control is an illusion. No matter how much you try, you cannot control the hearts, minds, or actions of others. You can build walls, wear masks, and walk on eggshells, and still be hurt. Because the world doesn't bend to our expectations. It moves as it moves. But you can change something far more powerful, your awareness of what lives inside you. Pain is not your enemy. It is a mirror. It reflects back to you the parts of yourself you've avoided looking at. It points to the stories you've carried for too long, the wounds you've silenced but never healed. And here's the paradox. The more you try to numb it, the more power it gains over you. Numbing doesn't heal pain. It buries it. And buried pain doesn't disappear. It controls you from the shadows. True strength doesn't come from shielding yourself from pain. It comes from understanding it, from seeing it clearly, from sitting with it instead of running away. Because when you stop blaming the outside world and turn inward, everything changes. The battlefield is no longer out there, it's within. And once you see that, pain loses its grip. Pain stops being a force that breaks you and becomes a teacher that sets you free. Most of what rules your emotional life isn't happening in the light of awareness. It happens in the shadows, in places you rarely look and often avoid. You may believe you're reacting to the world around you, but in truth, much of the time, you're reacting to your own unconscious. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This is one of the most important truths you'll ever hear. Because what we call bad luck, pain, or patterns we can't escape are often just the unconscious playing out its old stories. Think about those moments when you suddenly feel hurt or triggered without fully understanding why. Someone says something ordinary and it hits you like a knife. A situation that seems small to others completely unravels you. These moments feel like they come out of nowhere, but they're not random. They're messages from the parts of you you've ignored, the parts you've silenced, repressed, or buried so deep that they operate without your permission. The unconscious is not just a fog of forgotten memories. It is a living system inside you, full of old emotions, wounds, fears, desires, and beliefs. It carries the versions of you that were never allowed to speak. The child who felt invisible, the teenager who was rejected, the adult who was betrayed. Each of these parts still lives somewhere beneath the surface, waiting for their pain to be acknowledged. And when life touches something that resembles those old wounds, the unconscious reacts before your rational mind can even understand what's happening. That's why you can feel intense emotions over something that seems small. That's why certain words, actions, or silences cut so deeply. It isn't really about what's happening now. It's about what's being activated inside you. For years, you may have tried to control the outside world to avoid these triggers, but the real battlefield has always been within. As long as you don't see it, it controls you. It decides how you react, how you feel, and often how your life unfolds. It shapes your relationships, your self-worth, and your sense of safety without ever asking your permission. But when you begin to bring awareness into these shadows, something powerful happens. The unconscious loses its power to control you from behind the curtain. You stop being an emotional puppet and start becoming the author of your story. Awareness doesn't erase pain overnight, but it changes your relationship to it. What once felt like a storm becomes a signal. What once controlled you becomes something you can meet with clarity. This is why the journey inward matters more than any external defense. No wall can protect you from what lives inside you. But once you know your inner world, once you truly see it, nothing outside can break you in the same way again. The real battlefield is not other people. It's not the world. It's your unconscious. And the moment you choose to face it is the moment you begin to reclaim your freedom. Most people believe that the only way to stop being hurt is to harden themselves, to build an invisible wall between their heart and the world. They learn to smile without feeling, to say, "I'm fine," when they're not, to act like nothing touches them. They convince themselves that if they care less, they'll suffer less. And for a moment, it seems to work. It gives them the illusion of safety, like a fragile shield between them and everything that could hurt. But the truth is, that's not strength. That's survival. That's fear disguised as control. When you build emotional armor, you don't just keep pain out. You also keep yourself in. You silence your feelings, shut down your heart, and begin to lose touch with who you really are. And the longer you live this way, the more disconnected you become from yourself, from others, and from life itself. That we've been taught to confuse numbness with power, to believe that not reacting means we've become strong. But real strength isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about not needing to pretend anymore. It's about reaching a place where the actions, judgments, or moods of others no longer have the power to control you. Not because you've turned to stone, but because you've come home to yourself. Carl Jung once said, "Know all the theories, master all the techniques, but when you touch a human soul, be just another human soul." This includes your own soul. The parts of you you've tried to hide behind armor, your pain, your fear, your insecurity. They don't make you weak. They make you real. And the moment you stop fighting them, they stop ruling over you. True strength isn't built on walls. It's built on awareness. When you see your own wounds clearly, no one can use them against you. When you accept your shadows, no one else can weaponize them. The world loses its power to shake what you've already embraced. That's why some of the strongest people are not the hardest. They're the most integrated. They don't need to perform strength. They live it quietly, from the inside out. Armor can break. Masks can slip. But self-knowledge is unshakable. When you stand in the truth of who you are, both the light and the darkness, you no longer need to defend it. You simply exist in it. And from that place, external pain may touch you, but it doesn't own you anymore. So no, true strength isn't pretending nothing affects you. It's knowing exactly what does, and no longer being controlled by it. The walls you've built to protect yourself have also been the prison keeping you stuck. But the moment you put them down, you discover something extraordinary. Your strength was never in the armor. It was in you all along. Since the time we were children, most of us have been taught to fear pain. We were told not to cry, not to make a scene, not to feel too much. We were told to stay strong, to move on, to get over it. So we grew up believing that suffering is a sign of weakness, something to be hidden, silenced, or numbed. But suffering isn't weakness. Suffering is a messenger, a language the soul uses when it has something important to say. Carl Jung once shared a powerful metaphor. Depression is like a lady in black. If she turns up, don't push her away. Invite her in, offer her a seat, and listen to what she has to say. Pain and suffering are no different. The very emotions we spend our lives running from are often carrying the exact message we need to hear in order to grow. When you silence your pain, it doesn't disappear. It finds another way to speak. It becomes anxiety that creeps in without warning. It becomes anger that explodes over small things. It becomes numbness that drains your joy. It becomes patterns of self-sabotage that you don't fully understand. Ignored pain doesn't die. It digs tunnels deeper into your life, waiting for the right moment to surface. Suffering is not an enemy. It's a mirror. It reflects the inner battles you've refused to face. It shows you where you're still carrying old wounds, where you've abandoned parts of yourself, where you've mistaken strength for suppression. It points you to what is asking to be healed. The truth is, pain only becomes unbearable when you fight it. When you turn away, resist it, or try to numb it, suffering grows louder. But when you turn toward it, when you breathe, stay, and listen, something shifts. Pain loses its power to control you, and it begins to reveal its message. Maybe it's a boundary you've ignored for too long. Maybe it's a truth about yourself you've been afraid to face. Maybe it's a part of your story that still needs your compassion. Suffering, when faced, becomes a doorway. It strips away illusions, pride, and masks, and brings you face to face with who you really are beneath all the layers. It's in those moments of honest pain that we often find our deepest strength. Not the kind of strength that looks unbreakable from the outside, but the quiet, unshakable strength that lives at the core. When you allow pain to speak, it stops screaming. When you stop running from suffering, it stops chasing you. And when you begin to meet it with awareness, it transforms from a force that breaks you into a force that builds you. You don't have to love pain, but you can respect it. You can learn from it. And when you do, suffering no longer defines your story. It becomes the teacher that leads you back to yourself. Very few people ever choose to walk through the dark valley of their own soul. Even fewer make it all the way through. This is because the path of true inner transformation, what Carl Jung called individuation, does not promise comfort. It does not offer easy answers or instant peace. It is not about escaping the darkness. It is about entering it fully with open eyes and allowing it to change you. Individuation is the process of becoming who you truly are, not the image you show the world, not the role you play to be accepted, not the mask you wear to feel safe. It is about peeling back everything that is false, layer by layer, until all that remains is what is real. But this process is not gentle. It asks you to question everything you've identified with. It asks you to confront parts of yourself you've spent a lifetime avoiding. It demands that you let go of illusions that once made you feel secured. In this valley, the ego begins to dissolve. All the labels, achievements, titles, and stories you've clung to start to lose their meaning. You begin to see how much of your life has been shaped by fear, expectation, and survival, and how little of it has come from your true essence. It can feel like everything is falling apart, but what's actually happening is that everything false is being stripped away, that it's here, in this unsettling darkness, that you meet your shadows. You come face to face with the parts of you you've denied, the insecurity, the neediness, the shame, the anger, the fear. They are not monsters to be destroyed. They are abandoned children to be understood, reclaimed, and integrated. Because the more you deny these parts, the more power they hold over you. But the moment you turn toward them, their grip begins to loosen. This is not a path of perfection. Jung reminded us, individuation is not a process of perfection, but of integration. True transformation doesn't mean becoming flawless. It means becoming whole. It means allowing light and shadow to exist in the same space without shame or denial. But walking this valley can feel lonely. Not everyone is willing to face themselves so deeply. As you begin to break free from the patterns that once defined you, you may outgrow places, relationships, and even versions of yourself. But this isn't rejection, it's evolution. It's the quiet, sacred act of stepping into your true self. On the other side of this valley is a kind of strength no armor can match. A strength rooted not in appearance, but in truth. And once you've walked through this darkness, nothing and no one can take that away from you. There comes a moment on the path of inner transformation when you realize that the strongest shield you can ever hold isn't made of steel. It isn't made of armor or cold indifference. It's made of something much quieter, something invisible to the world but unshakable at your core. That shield is consciousness that you've spent years believing you needed to protect yourself from the world, from rejection, betrayal, judgment, loss. You tried to build walls high enough, strong enough, to keep pain out. But the truth is, pain always finds its way through. Not because the world is cruel, but because no external barrier can protect you from what lives inside you. It's only when you turn inward and awaken your awareness that everything begins to change. Consciousness is the space between what happens to you and how you respond to it. It is the quiet, steady center that remains untouched even when everything around you shakes. It doesn't mean you stop feeling. It doesn't mean life suddenly becomes easy. It means that you finally stop being controlled by every wave that crashes against you. When you cultivate awareness, external pain can still touch you, but it no longer defines you. Words may sting, but they no longer reopen old wounds. Rejection may hurt, but it no longer shatters your sense of worth. Loss may bring sadness, but it no longer consumes your entire being. Awareness creates a distance between the event and the story you tell yourself about it. And in that space lies your freedom, Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. Before, you were tossed around by the wind, believing the storm was stronger than you. But now, you stand in your center. You can still feel the rain. You can still hear the thunder. But you are no longer the storm. You are the one watching it. That is the quiet strength of consciousness. This is why those who live only on the surface are so easily hurt. A single wave can knock them down. But those who learn to dive deeper into themselves discover that beneath the surface, there is stillness. There is stability. There is power. When you know your inner world, the outer world loses its power to control you. Consciousness doesn't make you untouchable by making you harder. It makes you untouchable by making you clearer. You no longer confuse someone else's actions with your worth. You no longer hand over your peace to someone else's choices. And here's the most beautiful part. Once you discover this shield within, you no longer need to fight the world. You simply stand in your truth. And nothing, absolutely nothing, can shake that. You've walked with me through many layers of this journey. You've looked at pain not as an enemy, but as a messenger. You've faced the unconscious, the hidden parts of yourself that shape how you see the world. You've learned that the walls you built to protect yourself were never real shields. They were cages. And you've begun to see that the only true protection you'll ever need comes from the quiet strength within. The truth is, nothing and nobody will ever stop life from being unpredictable. People will still say things that hurt. Rejection will still happen. Loss will still be part of the human experience. You can't stop the world from being what it is, but you can stop giving it the power to break you. That's the difference between living in fear and living in awareness. Carl Jung said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." You've spent years resisting pain, resisting rejection, resisting the parts of yourself that you didn't want to feel. But resistance only kept you trapped. The moment you begin to accept, not in weakness, but in clarity, everything shifts. What once controlled you begins to dissolve. What once terrified you begins to lose its power. True emotional freedom isn't about never being hurt again. It's about no longer being owned by the hurt. It's about knowing that whatever happens out there, you are still whole in here. When awareness becomes your foundation, the storms of life no longer knock you down. They pass through you like wind through an open window. You may bend, but you don't break. You may feel pain, but you don't become pain. You may walk through darkness, but you no longer fear it. This is what it means to be untouchable. Not to be numb, not to be perfect, but to be awake. To live with your eyes open, your heart aware, and your soul steadied. If these words have reached a part of you that's been waiting to be seen, don't just let this be another moment that fades away. Make it a turning point. Take this awareness and let it grow. Let it become the way you breathe, the way you move through the world, the way you meet yourself in silence. And if this resonates with you, I want you to write in the comments, "I choose awareness." Not because it's easy, but because it's real. Because this is the beginning of your quiet strength, the kind that doesn't need to be performed or defended, only lived. The world will keep moving. The waves will keep coming. But you will no longer be at the mercy of every tide. You will stand in your center, calm, awake, and free. This is where your real life begins.